Hey everybody, I'm Rick Beato. I love these episodes. Today's episode is the top 20 rock bass sounds of all time. Not jazz, not blues, rock bass sounds. So when you go in the comments and you tell me that I forgot somebody, make sure that they're a rock player. When I say sound, I also mean tone. I don't mean the best rock bass players of all time, even though many of these are the best rock bass players. But these are great bass tones. I've already done the guitar. I've already done the drums. So today it's the bass player's turn. So let's get started. If you remember from my other two videos, I'm not doing these in any particular order because it's almost impossible to actually put them in order. But I'm going to start with this one. That is, of course, Flea from the song Give It Away off Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. The thing I love about this tone is that it's not only really super tight, I love all the little ghost notes that he plays in there. Those little ghost notes actually propel the groove. You should be able to just pull up a bass track, play it, and it just sounds huge, like this one does. Bass sound number 2. In case you didn't know what that was The Who's John Entwistle playing Pinball Wizard. Now, John Entwistle's bass style is incredibly unique because of the way that he slapped the strings with his right hand and created that kind of tone. It was really a massive part of The Who's sound, was his bass sound. Coming in at number 3. I know you know that one. That was Justin Chancellor from the song Schism, which was off of Tool's Lateralis, which came out in 2001. Anytime you have a song based around a bass riff, especially if it's Tool, gets my vote. Coming in at number 4. That was, of course, Tom Hamilton's bass line from Sweet Emotion off Aerosmith's 1975 release, Toys in the Attic. If you don't know that bass line, I don't know where you've been living. That is a classic song that is written around a bass line. I love how consistently it's played. It's really compressed. It has tons of bottom end, and the tune is based around it. Coming in at number 5. That was Wilton Felder's bass line from the Jackson 5's I Want You Back, which was released in October of 1969. I remember when it came out on the radio. It's such a great melodic and rhythmic hook. It really makes the whole song happen. Coming in at number 6. That was Black Sabbath's Geezer Butler's bass part on Into the Void. What's interesting about this bass sound is that it's tuned low. It's tuned down to a low C sharp. And this tune has been covered by so many different metal bands. Kyuss, Monster Magnet, the Melvins, Soundgarden. I've also read that James Hetfield and Eddie Van Halen both list it as one of their favorite riffs of all time. Coming in at number 7. That was, of course, Tim Comerford from Rage Against the Machine's self-titled record. The tune is called Bomb Track. It's a really bright bass tone, gritty, bright, with distortion on it, and it's so powerful, especially when he goes into the chords there. It just really makes that riff. I'll tell you a funny story. This is totally an aside. One day I was in a music store in 1995 or 6 here, and I see a guy playing a guitar, and I go over to him and I said, "Hey man, that sounds great." and he's playing really good. I was going to buy that guitar. I was thinking, I hope he doesn't buy it. So I said, are you in a band? He's like, yeah. I said, what are you guys called? He says, Rage Against the Machine. Okay. It was Zach. He had cut all his dreads off and his hair was about this long. And when I pulled into the place, the rest of the guys were playing catch with a football out in the parking lot. And he was totally cool about it. I was like, oh, sorry, man, I didn't recognize you. He's like, oh, no sweat. That's my Rage Against the Machine story. Coming in at number 8. That was, of course, John Paul Jones playing the legendary bass part from Ramble On. It's a beautifully melodic bass line. When I was in junior high school, I got an electric bass. I actually started on the bass before the guitar, and that's one of the first tunes that I learned, was to learn that bass part and play along with a record. I still love to do that. John Paul Jones is a legend, not only for his bass playing, but for his keyboard playing and his arrangements. Coming in at number 9. I better not play any more than that or the video will get taken down by the notorious blockers, the Beatles. That is Paul McCartney's bass line to With a Little Help from My Friends off the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band record, which was released in 1967. Paul's bass playing really was, a huge element of the Beatles, and his Hofner bass sound, which I believe it was then. This might actually be his Rickenbacker 4001 by this point. I think he started playing it by 67. But he always played with a really dead, muted sound. And because of that, he was able to dance around the chord changes and play these really intricate bass lines. And it made their music even that much better. Coming in at number 10. That was, of course, the great James Jamerson, who was the uncredited bassist on many of the late 60s and early 70s Motown hits. In fact, he played on 30 Billboard #1 hit songs and 70 #1 R&B hit songs. He was also one of the most influential bassists of the modern era. His influence reached from players like Paul McCartney all the way to Jaco Pastorius. He sadly passed away at age 47 in 1983. Coming in at number 11. That was, of course, the bass part from the chorus of Soundgarden's Fell on Black Days, which was produced by Michael Beinhorn and engineered by Jason Casaro. Anybody that knows the Super Unknown record knows that it has a massive bass sound. One of the things about this bass part is how weird it is. It's incredibly cool. So he's on this E chord, and the first phrase he plays, right? So he plays F natural, and then F sharp when it goes to the C chord. The second phrase, he uses F sharp every time. And the third phrase, he plays F natural, then F sharp the third time. It's very, very odd, but super cool. Coming in at number 12. That was Sting's bass part from Synchronicity 2 off the Synchronicity album by The Police. There's many different Sting bass sounds. He plays the upright fretless, he plays a fretted bass with a pick, he plays with his fingers, he does all different things. This particular song in the beginning has 2 separate bass parts played together, and then this part is heavily chorused but has tremendous bottom end on it. It's really a great album for bass, even though I went through a bunch of the Police albums and I listened to Roxanne, I listened to Message in a Bottle, and they all have very different bass sounds. Coming in at number 13. That was Cheap Trick's Tom Peterson playing his Hamer 12-string bass. He actually has a Gretsch 12-string signature model that's out now. And this is one of the first times that I ever heard a bass sound like this. The bass on this record, I always wondered, how did they get such big bottom end? Well, another person that used a 12-string electric bass and created one of the most iconic bass riffs of the grunge era, coming in at number 14... Most people don't realize when the bass is playing harmonics at the beginning that it's actually a bass, and that is because it has those octave strings on it. This is actually a more complex bass part than I think most people realize. There's a lot of chords in it, and there's a lot of really interesting moving lines over the chords in the chorus that don't necessarily line up exactly with the chords. The bass line is very, very hip on this song. Coming in at number 15. That was Tony Levin's incredibly cool octaver sounding bass part on Sledgehammer from Peter Gabriel's So record. That entire record has great bass lines on it. It's really... Tony gives a masterclass in how to create bass parts to rock songs. Coming in at number 16. That was Mike Starr's bass part off the song Wood by Alice in Chains. That was first off the single soundtrack and then was later released as well on the album Dirt, which came out in 1992. The song was written by Jerry Cantrell as a tribute to his friend Andy Wood, the lead singer of Mother Love Bone, who had died a couple years earlier. Coming in at number 17. No, not the band The Guess Who. I'm saying guess who's playing bass on this and what song it is. It is a really perfect rock bass sound. If you think you know the band and the song, put it in the comments section. The first person who gets it right gets a free 3-month Prime membership to the Beato Club. Coming in at number 18. For those of you that don't know that last band, that was the band Curve with their song Horror Head off the Doppelganger record, which came out in 1992. The song was produced by Flood, and you might notice some similarities in sounds between this and U2's Octone Baby. It was also mixed by Alan Moulder, who you know from Smashing Pumpkins and Nine Inch Nails and Swerve Driver, and is a really great example of shoegazing mixed with, I don't even know, EDM music. It's got programming and billowing clouds of distorted guitars with beautiful chords. You can find it on YouTube. It's not on Spotify. Coming in at number 19, finally. It was difficult to decide which Geddy Lee bass part would be a great one to pick. I mean, he played different basses in different eras. He played a Rickenbacker. He's playing a jazz bass in the video there. But honestly, his sound is all in his fingers because it doesn't sound that much different when he's playing the two different basses. I also considered this bass part. It's interesting because different producers would decide on different bass sounds for each record. Some of the bass sounds are more mid-range, you don't have as much bottom end. Some have a lot of bottom end, not as much mid-range. But I think that Tom Sawyer really is a great blend of the two. It's got big bottom end and it's got great mids that you expect out of a Rush bass part. Coming in at number 20, one of Geddy's biggest influences. That was unmistakably Chris Squire from Yes. The bass line on Roundabout is one of the most revered ever in rock history, I think. Not only for the tone of it, but for the notes. The pattern that he's playing is so cool in it. And it was a huge influence on a lot of bass players, like I mentioned, Geddy Lee. Now, it was really difficult to choose between all these different bass sounds. For example, there's many different styles of metal bass sounds that I could have chosen, like... I could go on and on picking great rock bass sounds all day, but I think I'm going to leave it there. That's all for now. Please subscribe here to my Everything Music YouTube channel. If you're interested in the Beato book, go to my website at www.rickbeato.com. And if you want to support the channel even more, you can become a member of the Beato Club. You can find out about it on my website as well. Thanks for watching.